Hello, my name is Andy Wright. Welcome to my man cave. I'm a volunteer with the Moors Valley Railway and this is my story. My interest in railways started when I was 7. In 1962 I was living in London and Mum was ill, she had to go to hospital, and my aunt, who lived in Brockenhurst, volunteered to look after me. I was picked up by my 13-year-old cousin. He came up to London, picked me up, and whilst at Waterloo Station he bought me a book which I have treasured ever since. He took me down to Brockenhurst and so I spent 2 weeks solid looking at trains. My cousin lived almost next to the railway at Brockenhurst, and we go up there every day and look at the trains. And I've still got the book that he bought me, the 1962 Ian Allen book of Southern Region and Great Western Engines. I loved it so much I continued train spotting, and the following year my aunt bought me the combined volume, the 1963 combined volume, and that was well and truly used, as you can see from the condition of the cover. My interest in railways continued throughout schooling. I declined a bit when steam disappeared, but then it's picked up again. When I was 15 I left and I got a job in London at Holborn Viaduct, and I'd travel there daily by train from East Dulwich, change at Peckham Rye, and then a train up to Holborn Viaduct. And over the course of a couple of months that I was working there, I drew the entire track layout of the journey, and that's where my main interest lies. I like the operation side, the track layouts, why things are done, signals and accents, of course, very important, and that's the main interest of my railways. My adult interest in railways continued. In 1981 I became a volunteer member at the Mid-Hants Railway, and that's there that I learned to be a signaller. I was a signaller at Alresford, Ropley and Medstead. In 1992 my son had a football game over at Ashley Heath, and the club decided to have a fun afternoon at the Moors Valley Railway. That was my first visit there. I've never even really heard of the Moors Valley until then, and whilst there I took more interest in the railways rather than playing football with my son, and I saw a driver experience course being advertised. I joined up and I subsequently completed that course. That was with Dave Knight and Talos. I was awarded a certificate. It wasn't until many years later that I looked at the certificate again and realised that my certificate number was 001. It turns out I was the first person to go on the driver experience course. I continued going up to the Moors Valley Railway as a volunteer and learning to drive, and I tended to use Jason an awful lot. I went round light engine with freight stock, empty passenger stock, and subsequently I was passed out and I was able to drive passenger trains. Jason was certainly a favourite of mine at that time. It's a very volatile engine, it can change very quickly. You've got to be careful about the fire, the steam pressure and the amount of water in the boiler. All three can change so quickly with Jason, and it's a good learning curve. Over the years I think Jason's been out in the rain a bit too much. It must have shrunk because I found it more and more difficult getting in and out of the cab, but I tended to go to the railway and drive Pioneer, Zeus or Offa. For some reason they seem to be a lot easier to get in and out of. In 2004 I retired from the police. I'd been a policeman there for 33 years in the Hampshire Police, and I got a job with South West Trains, firstly as a guard at Salisbury, then a driver at Bournemouth. I stayed there for about 7 years. During that time I drove Waterloo to Weymouth and to Portsmouth. I then moved on to Freightliner at Eastleigh, and I drove trains from Eastleigh to South Wales, Birmingham, London and Crewe. As a volunteer on the Moors Valley Railway I drive, I signal, and now I'm fully retired I spend a lot of time doing maintenance and odd jobs. I particularly like the sessions that they do during the off season when they spend a week replacing an entire length of track. I help to refurbish the signals and do bits and pieces of installations, and I like to help Neil Henderson, who has been there since day one and is responsible for the marvellous signalling up there. It's what really makes the railways. It reminds me of the days of the 60s with the steam trains being signalled by 7/4 signals. lovely memories. During the year, the Moors Valley Railway holds several events. I particularly like the galas and I like the Christmas Santa specials, both of which are extremely atmospheric. I like to signal on those days because it's very, very busy. We literally signal dozens of trains throughout the day and it's extremely rewarding. Very tiring, but a lovely, lovely day. Throughout the years, I've got very many happy memories of things that have happened down the Moors Valley Railway. They're a friendly bunch, lovely to work with. I'll particularly remember the children as youngsters. I'd take them down there in a caravanette and we'd stay down there for perhaps 5 days. With Jim's permission, we used to camp on the grass at the back. The children absolutely loved it, and that's carried on through to their children now, and they're talking to their children about trains, and I see a lot of my enthusiasm coming out there. My interest in railways take me around the country looking at some of them. I particularly like the narrow gauge railways of the Romney Hydenden Church, the Lil Ratty in Cumbria, the one that goes up from Ravenglass, and the Great Little Trains of Wales. Lots of choice up there. Lovely, lovely holidays spent looking at those railways. Standard gauge lines, I like the Great Central and I like the Severn Valley. Both wonderful railways. And finally, if you've got spare time and you've got enthusiasm for railways, perhaps you'd like to volunteer, give us a call, pop in and see us. I'm sure there's something we can sort out for you. You don't need special skills at all, just an enthusiasm and basic DIY skills at home. Look forward to seeing you. Bye.